This week's story is another personal one involving my biological father, who I never met. This is a picture of my mother and father, probably taken around 1959. To my knowledge, it is the only picture in existence of my mother and father together. I had it made when I was in college from a negative I found while going through a box of negatives with my mother. I had never seen the picture before and didn't ask what happened to the original. For those who may not know, I'm Catholic on both my maternal and paternal sides of my family. Prior to my mother's generation, my ancestors on that side of my family were all spiritualists. Spiritualists believe that our spirits exist beyond death and that we can communicate with them. Spiritualism peaked in popularity around the turn of the last century. My great-great-maternal grandmother had the gift of psychometry, which is the ability to sense things about people by touching personal objects that belong to them, such as a ring or wristwatch. My mother had limited and undeveloped psychic abilities her entire life, but that's another story. Throughout my childhood, we attended spiritualist churches, but not on any regular basis. In 2001, I found a spiritualist camp located in Ashley, Ohio, which is approximately 30 miles from my home in Mansfield, called Woolley Park. This is a postcard of Woolley Park, which I found on the internet several years ago. I asked my mother if she'd like to attend a service with me, and she said she would, so we did. Woolley Park had clearly seen better days. To put it charitably, it was run down. The service was conducted in the back room of a rundown cabin, and there were only 3 or 4 people in attendance other than my mother and me. A typical spiritualist service consisted of the singing of Christian hymns, followed by the recitation of the Spiritualist Creed, and then readings to those in attendance from the mediums in attendance. It has been my experience that some mediums are better than others, and a lot of them fish for information from the person being read to, and then feed this same information back to them, and the person is amazed and dumbfounded at how much information the medium seemed to know. In any event, they say that if you want to hear from a deceased loved one, you should mentally invite them prior to the service, which I did to my biological father on our drive to Woolley Park. When it was my turn, the lady medium stated that a man was communicating with her who said that he was my father, but not my father, and that I would understand what he meant. I knew exactly what he meant, because when I was born in 1960, having a child out of wedlock was downright scandalous. And since my mother and father did not marry, my brother and 2 sisters' father, who had passed away in 1957, was named on my birth certificate as my father. I shared their last name, and was not told until I was a teenager who my real father was, and by then he had also passed away. As I previously stated, some mediums are better than others. They all tend to say pretty generic stuff, like there's a woman coming to me with the name Mary, or a name that starts with the letter M. Well, almost everyone knows someone named Mary, or a name that starts with the letter M. And if you don't know anyone like that, they say you're going to meet someone with that description. They also tend to say that the person is watching over you and proud of you. I've never heard them say that your loved ones are watching over you and think you're really screwing up. So I wasn't that impressed when the lady medium told me that the man who said he was my father but not my father was watching over me and was proud of me over promotions I had received at work. I worked in a maximum security prison at the time and had been promoted to sergeant and lieutenant during the past few years, but that could have been lucky guesswork on the part of the medium. But then she asked me if I recently completed some training or education that was a long time in coming. I had attended The Ohio State University from 1978 to 1982 and had dropped out for personal reasons the quarter I should have graduated, and finally graduated 18 years later after returning to school several times, only to find that Ohio State had added additional requirements in order for me to graduate each time I went back. I found this a bit more impressive because of the fact that my graduation was a long time in coming, and seeing a 40-year-old graduate from college isn't exactly something you see every day. What the lady medium stated next is what really impressed me, but not until a couple weeks later. The medium stated that this man who said that he was my father but not my father was showing her an image of himself standing in front of a big black car and was indicating that it was his first car and she could tell that he was really proud of it. She stated that she wasn't familiar with car makes or models, but that this particular car was black and was the type that had a big, long, protruding eagle hood ornament. She then asked if any of this made sense to me, to which I answered no, to which she responded, "It would make sense to me within the next couple of weeks." And I thought to myself, yeah, right. I had met my father's sister, Casey, and prior to the spiritualist service that my mother and I attended, she gave me a much treasured manila envelope containing photographs of my father. I was in bed when I looked through these pictures. Though this picture was in that envelope, I did not see it because, unbeknownst to me, it had fallen out of the envelope and under my bed. About 2 weeks after the spiritualist service that my mother and I had attended at Woolly Park, I was in my bedroom putting on my slippers. One of my slippers had been pushed under my bed. When I got down on the floor on my hands and knees to retrieve my slipper, I noticed the picture on the previous slide was also under my bed. This is the back of that photograph, and in my father's handwriting are the words, "My first car, 1932 Chevy Coupe." Just as the lady medium had said, it all made sense a couple weeks later. I scanned the front and back of the photograph and emailed it to my brother, telling him about the spiritualist service which my mother and I had attended. This is a photograph of a 1932 Chevy Coupe which I found on the internet. Though it cannot be seen in the picture of my father in his first car, the 1932 Chevy Coupe had a long protruding eagle hood ornament, which can be seen here, circled in red. Upon receiving my email, my brother checked out a website that specialized in selling parts for restoring older cars and sent me a picture, similar to this, of the protruding eagle hood ornament radiator cap for 1932 Chevrolet Coupes. I have long suspected that most mediums and fortune tellers are phonies and or con artists, especially the ones who charge money for their so-called gift. The ones who have impressed me the most over the years have provided their service for free. I also suspect that the person being read unwittingly or subconsciously provides all the information needed to the person doing the reading. And though my then recent promotions at work and college graduation could have been lucky guesses, I assure you, I did not mention that my mother and father had not married. This is something I never mentioned publicly until well after my mother passed away in 2020. With respect to my father's first car, I had never seen this photograph until I found it under my bed 2 weeks after the spiritualist service at Woolly Park. And even if I had, the hood ornament radiator cap could not be seen in the photograph. Now, did my biological father, who I never met but would have loved to have had a relationship with, send validated messages to me through the medium? I like to think so. In any event, I found this to be very interesting and hope that you did as well and enjoyed this video. This is Ghost Hunter Joe saying happy hunting and see you next time.